Welcome to Boss Battle, Round 18. I am here with several guests. I am Goron1988, and I am here with, well, do you want to introduce yourselves?
No.
Okay. We've got somebody who won't introduce themselves, who will be unnamed. Anybody else?
No.
Okay. Two unnamed people.
I'm
And
just trying to eat some Cheetos because I haven't had lunch yet.
and
I'm Krakaton. I sometimes stream things, but I'm getting ready to move, so it's going to be a little bit before I'm still in a new place. But hey, fiber optics going to be a thing, probably.
whoop whoop, that'll definitely be good. And yeah, so this should be a really fun match that I haven't really even thought of before the wheel decided.
Oh yeah, the wheel. I forgot the wheel.
Yes, the wheel. Because we have a wheel to decide all of this on our reveal parts. Yeah. Which boss do you think would win outside at the moment? I probably would go for Bongo Bongo because it's quite cloudy where I am. Or
I
maybe
don't know,
Ganon.
I'm in the basement.
Oh, okay. I see.
Like you need to define outside more because if I look outside right now, it pretty much looks like what the sky looks exactly like the Ganon fight did. So
I think Ganon's won all of them then. Got it. Well. So, moving on. Our fight is Baronade versus Bongo Bongo. There's a lot of bees in this fight. There's a bioelectric anemone, and, well, a phantom shadow beast. So, 5 bees in this fight. You wouldn't believe it here. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Is there anything anybody else wants to say about this fight? Like, just preamble, or shall we get into
all stats and everything aside, conceptually, this being just a guy playing bongos versus a jellyfish is kind of a shitpost in and of itself, and I do love that. I do love how a lot of these boss fights end up being that, like how we had 2 old ladies versus a guy playing bongos. A lot of these bosses can be described in a way that just makes it really funny. Like, oh, hey, it's a lizard that crawls around, and he's fighting a couple old ladies with the dongo.
yeah, I do have to agree that like this was the best game in the series for this concept to start with. Because with any of the other ones, you wouldn't get as humorous as concepts of the fights.
I mean, for this one, I was considering putting it in the title, and I may change the title, but like literally fist versus punching bag, which one wins, but, you know.
Oh my god, could you imagine training in martial arts, but your punching bag is covered in little, like, shock sensors. So every time you make contact with it, it zaps you.
Oh, that'd be terrible, but...
It would be even worse if it gave a stronger zap based on how strong you punch. Like, if you punch stronger, you get shocked harder.
Oh, no! But, yeah.
Don't invent that, people. Even I'm not stupid enough to
nobody invent that, please.
Yeah, listen, I am one of those people who's like, this could possibly go wrong, but I'm going to do it anyway. Listen, don't make that. Just don't.
Don't. Okay.
There's no
I'm
benefit
in
to that.
eBay
Ask
right
yourself
now buying supplies. Thanks for the idea.
Okay. And moving
I
along.
guess I'm taking a flight to Finland to revive Cat. After he
It's
knocked
too
himself
late.
into a coma from that.
It's too late. So our first boss, Baronade, is Health B, Power D, Intelligence F, Mobility D, Electric Stun A, Jellyfish B, Flail B. Decent stats all around. Baronade, in theory, should be a very good boss. I feel like the intelligence has been the only thing for Baronade that has really caused the loss of quite a few fights realistically, and I'm a bit worried that might cause this loss here tonight. What does everybody else think?
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Like, the intelligence has been proven a very, very important stats.
Yep.
Baronade's other abilities are very good, and Baronade has like one of the strongest defenses in, well, Nintendo 64 history.
Yeah. Any?
It's a shame that Baronade's biggest strength in his defense is that he's really good against repelling physical, especially contact physical attacks, and his opponent uses exclusively those. Unfortunately, this opponent also has a pretty hefty constitution.
Yeah. Well, we'll see more on that one. Bongo Bongo? At this point, can we just say Bongo Bongo's the fan favorite at this point? I think we've all warmed more to...
No,
I mean,
it's
was
Bongo
there
canon.
ever
Bongo.
any question?
Sorry?
Yes, canon. Canon.
Yep, I was gonna say, like, was there ever any question? Like, Bongo Bongo has been my favorite pretty much throughout this entire thing. And also, it's just his name is Bongo Bongo. The rest of these are so menacing. You have Goma, you have King Dodongo, you have Baronade, Bongo Bongo, and Volvagia the dragon.
When I think... Sometimes when I think of a name like Bongo Bongo, I'd be thinking of the Crash Bandicoot series, so it does confuse me sometimes. I'm like, wait, what? This was a boss in Ocarina of Time? Eh?
Yeah, you show someone a series of pictures of bosses and a series of names and throw in a couple of like fake names in there so that they can't just do boss elimination. They're going to think Bongo Bongo is one of the joke names, and they're going to be like, wait, no, they would not throw that in there unless it was real. But no, there's no way that's... No.
Yeah. So, Health A, brilliant health. Power B, decent. Intelligence B, decent again. Mobility B, decent. But a lot of this is boosted by that Dark Affinity A, which is one of the highest Dark Affinities of any of the bosses, and considering most of our bosses run on Dark Affinity, that's substantial. Invisibility A has helped in quite a few battles as well, so Bongo Bongo is brilliant all around, is what I'd say. Yeah. How do you think Bongo Bongo would get around Baronade, for instance? I mean, I'm just trying to throw it out there.
By doing a suplex.
I wouldn't say that. I would say that the answer should be the same for all who Bongo Bongo faces, and that's the Bongo.
The Bongo, yes. Always the Bongo. Okay then. So, that's Bongo Bongo, that's Baronade. Now what we've got to do is a few things realistically. So, first of all, we've got to determine the room itself, because the room does matter. Ideally, I'd have a bongo in the middle just because it's Bongo Bongo, but I don't believe it works this time.
Here's what I would suggest. Bottom half is Bongo Bongo stage, top half is Baronades. Just do a straight split horizontally. Because then Baronade has the ceiling that attaches to Bongo Bongo, has his bongo to pound on.
Okay then. If that's the case, I'm just trying
That's
to
my
make on that.
suggestion. I don't know
Baronade-
if there's maybe a slightly better way to do it, but
Baronade does go slightly above Bongo Bongo's realm. I think that would be too favorable for Bongo Bongo in this one, so I would just do a straight 50-50. Just because the shadow itself around Bongo Bongo gives Bongo Bongo more power, effectively, because it's sort of part of his Dark Affinity. So I'd feel like if the complete floor was, if the whole floor was basically the Shadow Realm, not the Shadow Realm, what am I talking about? You know what I mean, the Shadow Temple, then I think
I'm going
that...
to ban you to the Shadow Realm, Jimbo.
Thanks, Troy. But does everybody agree with me? I'm just trying to make sure that there's no significant advantage here.
No, yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay. So the second question is, and that's what we're all going to talk about on here, and we're all going to make sure that we have an agreement on this. But yeah, who's going to win this?
I think Ganon will win this. Just saying, I have a suspicion.
Like,
Just Ganon. Just Ganon.
this is my opinion on everything. Does everybody agree with me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I think Ganon will win. I definitely think Ganon will win.
What about yourself, Krakaton? I mean,
Yes, I gave a thumbs up reaction.
I
okay,
didn't see
good.
that one.
Yeah, I didn't know. I thought that was Cat twice. So
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. You thought Cat was
Uh,
twice. Like, Cat is probably double dumping. Just yeah, sure.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, that's good. And the third thing is, who's going to be Bongo Bongo and who's going to be Baronade in this fight? I'd nominate you for one of them, Krakaton.
Either way, I have to remember where the hell I put the bongos. They're just here.
I guess if you,
That sounded like Yoda for a moment.
I guess if you're figuring out the bongos and you put them right here, then
Here is
Need to
my
think for a
bongos.
second. But
And now
I agree on the results. Trust me. I agree on the results. I just need to go here for a second.
we have, but yeah. So you're Bongo Bongo, I guess, Krakaton. Kat, do you want to be Baronade or shall I?
Well, the things I've been forced to do at work of late have been requiring the intelligence of a plant, so I guess I could manage the position.
Okay. So that would work. Just give me a second. There's something I do want to put on but yeah, I just wanted to put that down. But yeah. So just thought I'd put more of what I'd notice about these things. Still hearing you. It's Krakaton searching for bongos, everybody. But yeah, I think we're pretty much ready. So yeah, we'll wait for Krakaton to get his bongos, and then yeah, I'll set the stage though, right? So basically, what happens is, both these worlds meld into one. It's slightly a bit more sort of oblong, egg-shaped, the arena, because one part of the arena is Bongo Bongo with the bongo, the other half being Baronade with Jabu Jabu. Bongo Bongo would see Baronade, well, Baronade senses, that's what we've determined. But Bongo Bongo would notice Baronade first. So Bongo Bongo would have first action in this. And yeah, whenever you're ready, Krakaton.
I don't know where the hell my bongos are. I can't find them.
Well, we can still wait. Don't
No,
worry.
They were just here. Oh, well, for the love of God. They were literally right next to me. My blanket with sleeves trademark was right on top of them.
Oh,
Good job.
gosh.
If it's out of sight, it's out of mind. It don't exist. No object permanence here.
Yeah, that happens with me as well, in all fairness. So what does Bongo Bongo do first?
Is that Bongo? It sounds
Bongo's
like
menacingly.
Okay.
I'm going to say that Bongo Bongo is probably going to be saying this and just being like, excuse me? I don't think he's entirely sure what he's looking at, so he's probably trying to play it safe and just waiting to see what this thing does, even. For all he knows, it could be covered in a deadly neurotoxin.
I
When
mean,
they'll touch it, just...
okay. So
Well,
Then-
he is undead, but...
then it goes to Baronade.
Well, the bongo has been bongoed, so Baronade would send a jellyfish. Because something moved. Something did something.
Okay.
Bongo Bongo, seeing this, is going to try and move one of his hands a bit of a distance to the right and just tap with that one. And he's going to try and see if the jellyfish move towards that one. While keeping his left hand like still visible but not bongoing with it.
Most likely the original jellyfish would just return, but the new jellyfish would go to the place where the bongo was sprung that time.
Okay. So Bongo Bongo is getting an idea of what he can do. So he sees that the defense retracts from that point and it extends out jellyfish from another point. So he can't just bait them around. So now he's probably going to be looking to try and at least gauge where a weak point may be. And he's probably already guessing, well, those things seem like they're shields of some kind. Probably want to get up in there.
Where specifically, Crackerton?
Behind where the jellyfish are, like the main body part. He's basically assuming that's an armor shell and that it is trading off its
Okay.
defense for offense when it extends those out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what is Bongo Bongo doing? I mean, you've said what Bongo Bongo is thinking, but I'm just trying to make sure
Yeah.
everything is working action by action.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what he would do at this point of like trying to bait out the defense. He's probably going to try and just start sort of circling around with his right hand leading and having that kind of drumming its fingers. Does he have fingers? I don't remember. His
He
hands.
does. Yes.
Yeah, he's drumming that hand on, he's kind of doing that, or sort of with two fingers, but basically just kind of having that hand lead and his main body and left hand are kind of following behind a bit and just trying
okay.
to see what he can do.
Well, how does Baronade react?
Beam!
Okay. Okay, so where's the beam aimed towards?
Towards the tapping.
So
Towards
the
the
right
camp.
hand, yeah.
Okay. What does Bongo Bongo try to do?
Well, with how quickly that attack comes out in game, I'd say he doesn't have. Also, his hand is kind of like leading his body, so he's probably not getting the right like angle to see it as it starts to come out. He's probably seeing it after it's already come out at least a few meters. So by the time he can even react, his hand's probably gotten zapped, and he's pulling it back and just kind of like, ah, damn it! Like when
Okay.
you shock yourself on a wire or something.
By the way, I will say about this, it's more than that. That beam is one of Baronade's most powerful attacks. We've discussed this. Your Bongo Bongo's hand is quite visibly hurt.
Yeah,
if-
it's probably in that state where it's not usable for a bit. It's just kind of-
In that, definitely, but like, I'll just. How do I put this? It like you can see like visible marks. This is
burns and stuff.
this is a big attack. Effectively, like Bongo Bongo is probably, at minor damage at this point, taking that attack like close to. So the hand is quite severely hurt here.
Yeah. So at this point, he's saying, okay, this thing's got some teeth to it, so we're going to have to go on the offense. He's definitely starting to regret his decision to play defensively because this thing's clearly got a decent offense to go with its defense.
Yeah.
And he's probably going to try and, like, reach up his left hand and kind of slap away at one of the tentacles that's attached to the ceiling. and
Okay.
try and like do sort of a chop motion, hoping to try and pop it out, or just see what
Okay.
happens.
What does Baronade do?
Baronade would send a jellyfish into the region where the slap went through, but, well, that's just a response.
Okay. So, this is how I'd rule it. Baronade has decent defenses here. I'm going to say that about half of them are chopped off. Well, there's 3 of them. Let's say 2 of them are chopped off. Bongo Bongo couldn't get the 3rd one.
Yeah, he
Basically.
definitely couldn't get the angle for that.
Yeah.
But he's going to try and basically pound real hard on the bongo with his right hand, and in that pounding motion, he's going to angle his hand so it launches himself, and he kind of like skims around the circumference to get around to the opposite side. So he's basically creating a distraction with the noise while also moving himself very quickly to the other side so he can line up, and his next action will probably be a left-handed chop at the last tentacle. But right now he's just basically doing a 180 around it.
Okay, but in the meantime, there is an action that Baronade needed to do whilst Bongo Bongo. I mean, yeah, just trying to work out my action economy here. I believe towards the end of Bongo Bongo's chop, Baronade had an action there, so we'll give it as that because I believe we did it at the start of the chop and now we've done it at the end, so. Right before Bongo Bongo moves, what does Baronade do?
There was a bang. A bang might be something slow. A jellyfish.
Okay. So these are jellyfish off the armor, to clarify, just... Or...
The jellyfish towards the bang.
Okay.
Yep, and that was his distraction of slamming the drum at an angle to launch himself around 180.
Yeah.
Basically,
So, how I would rule this, by the way, because the thing is that both the jellyfish have come out, is that Baronade has a gap on the other side, as well as the 2 jellyfish. You're on,
that's
you're
right.
on...
It doesn't cover its entire body. It kind of like has a shield of them that covers like an arc, doesn't it? And it kind of rotates that around or something? Or how's that work?
It rotates, but as it's connected, it hasn't rotated. So basically, it's got 2 weak spots on the side you just left, but it also had jellyfish that were coming towards you, so it's a tough one. But basically, you're still on a side with jellyfish, is how I'd rule it.
Bongo Bongo's not too worried about that because he's looking at this and being like, well, I mean, it's not really connected to the floor. It's only connected to the ceiling. So, and he's going to do another left-hand chop to try and sever the last tendril that's connecting it to the ceiling and trying to drop it onto the drums where it'll hopefully just start bouncing helplessly like Link does.
Okay.
Only this thing doesn't have feet or hover boots.
By the way, Baronade is not above the drums. Baronade is in the side related to Baronade, so Baronade isn't on the drums yet, to clarify.
Okay.
But yeah, Baronade still has an... Oh, sorry, you go.
I was going to say, he still has to sever it in order to be able to move Baronade to the bongo.
Yes,
so
true.
Right now, it's a step-by-step process.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to say Baronade is severed no matter what, pretty much, but what is Baronade's action on this one, Kat?
I would say that Baronade would just recall the first jellyfish being sent out, because Baronade would have no idea that an attack is coming towards it right now.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so, yeah, all of the connect... Yeah. I was making sure I was saying the right word there, okay?
I heard the right word, like, in that... like no sword playthrough. I think they said like ventricles or something like that. And I was like, never heard that one, but
yeah,
I'm trying to remember what it was because it sounded right.
Baronade is detached now. Baronade is not really been dealt any damage currently, apart from the fact that Baronade cannot heal now because Baronade is not connected to Jabu Jabu, and you know what I mean.
Whose
So
move is it now?
tough one. I'm just trying to figure it out. I think I'm just gonna give it back to you as Bongo Bongo because Baronade sort of recalled that jellyfish right towards the end of the swoop was how I sort of noted that. Again, if you've got any problems with that, let me know. Bongo Bongo is actually slightly faster as well, so I know I'm giving a bit of an advantage here,
Well, the
but
Baronade's also just dropped to the floor a bit, so it's probably still
yeah.
staggered a little bit of landing lag.
So
Forgot to press Z before landing.
yeah, true.
So you remember the Bongo Bongo has that ram move, right? Where he flips his body 180 and just charges forward.
Yeah.
He's going to try and do that and try and knock Baronade onto the Bongo side so that he can have the home field advantage and just be
Okay.
able to wail on it.
Yep. What does Baronade do in this case? Because I'd say Baronade would act now.
Well, Baronade's response of being on the ground would be to spin.
Okay. Okay. So in this case, it is flail. It is the jellyfish, defense as well.
Where
Yeah.
he sticks out the jellyfish and just starts spinning them around in and out.
Yeah. Okay, this is. I'd say you get. Okay. You haven't said sort of which part of Bongo Bongo hits Baronade, although this is
I
definitely.
believe it's the lower part of his torso. Like in the image, it's the top part because I believe
Well-
he kind of flips his body around 180, like rotates it on the shoulders. If I remember right, I believe that's how the tackle works.
Yeah, I need to check. I remember Bongo Bongo when you destroy both of the hands, Bongo Bongo goes for a charge move. So I assume that's what you mean? Yeah, okay. Well, I leave it to you. You're charging Baronade with one part of Bongo Bongo. I need to know which part it is. I'm gonna say that it does move Baronade relatively close to the Bongo, but not the Bongo itself. Baronade, whatever part you do choose, Baronade is probably on. I'm gonna go for minor damage at this point. Definitely. But I need to know which part because it can matter in all fairness.
Yeah, I think he's just going with like his torso part.
Okay.
So he flips it where like his eye is behind him, if I remember the animation right.
Yeah. I thought he just closes his eye or whatever it is, but
Oh, that might be it.
Yeah.
But I think he already knows there's contact damage with this thing, so he's probably not risking that penetrating through the little eye flaps.
yeah, of course. So, yeah, Bongo Bongo is dealt. It's probably on minor to moderate damage here, just because Bongo Bongo was on minor damage. And at the moment, what I would say is probably the hands on moderate and the body is on close to minor, if that makes sense. So, and Baronade is moved. Baronade is flailing. I just want to clarify on your end, Cat. Baronade would just continue flailing in this circumstance, correct? So there's no reaction Baronade would take.
Yeah, no, Baronade would continue to spin for a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now seeing the spinning and flailing, I think Bongo Bongo would wait for his second charge until he can time it right, so he can go through a gap. Because there are openings there. He's just got time. It's like going through a fan blade,
Yeah. Okay.
So
well,
he's gonna try and do that, and probably use a bit of his shadow affinity just to try and like help him. I don't know, like be semi-tangible or act as a barrier. I'm not sure exactly what he would be able to do with it.
Okay. Well, the thing is that effectively your charge does take up a lot of time, even with the speed it's given. So I know that Baronade will be a little bit stunned, but Baronade is only on minor damage. I'm actually gonna give the move to Baronade now. You are still flailing, Cat. What do you do? And where do you move, perhaps, because you are flailing?
Yeah, so Baronade would continue to spin for a while more and would go like in a circle around the zone where Baronade got pushed into. So
Okay. Yeah.
I guess Baronade can't see above it to realize that the area it's about to enter into does not have the ceiling of Jabu Jabu. So it doesn't know that it's about to be pushed into a very, very bad zone.
Yeah,
indeed.
exactly. I'm going to leave this to you, Kat, as to whether Baronade does appear on the Bongo Bongos. Just tell me now, because I know you're saying in a circle, so I'd assume eventually, but does Baronade go onto the Bongos now?
I would say that if there is no gap, Baronade would eventually accidentally land on the bongo.
Yeah.
Mm,
Oh yeah, just kind of by spinning, he's kind of teetering on the edge and just slowly getting more and more of a teeter until.
mm.
Oh, God.
Well,
That's unfortunate if that's how it happens.
we didn't discuss it before, but normally there is a sort of... Yeah, so there is sort of this, not barricade, but the drum is normally slightly above. Just tell me if if Baronade gets close to the drum itself then. Because I don't think Baronade would be able to go on top of it, but yeah, is Baronade close to the drum itself?
In that case, Baronade would eventually be close to the edge and most likely not go over the edge.
It's more like
Yeah.
it's tipping up a stair rather than down.
Yeah. Okay then. Well,
So that's what Bongo's going to wait for his second charge. He's going to wait for that moment as he sees it like slowly moving that direction. It's probably
okay.
carrying a little bit of momentum still from the first charge that kind
Yeah.
of like knocked it sideways a bit. So he's going to
Yeah.
wait until it gets into an optimal position and then try and charge for the bottom so that he can kind of like with a pull cue just
Yeah.
shot it.
Yeah, okay.
He's trying to do to the corner pocket with this thing. But he's just trying to pop fly, really. He's chipping it out of the sandbank, is what he's doing, the sand trap, and
yeah.
onto the green.
Okay, I'm gonna leave it between you two because it's tough to know what's exactly going on and rule it specifically. But yeah, at the moment, Baronade is spinning around. Bongo Bongo notices, and Bongo Bongo is waiting for an opportune moment to strike. Would you... Well, I'll say it this way. Would you assume that Baronade would continue flailing around eventually towards the bongo? I think I might have said it before, but I just want a clarification on that, Kat.
Yeah. I did so that it would happen eventually.
Okay, so shall we say that this moment happens as Bongo Bongo is waiting for it to happen? The moment happens, it's triggered, whatever time it is.
He's going to charge with his left hand since it's uninjured because he doesn't want to sustain any more damage to an already injured part and render himself unable.
Okay. Yeah, so what I'd say is, I mean, there'd have to be rulings. I think at this stage, I think we need some form of, I'm gonna call it for a coin flip if anybody's got it. But basically, Bongo Bongo attacks Baronade. Baronade is on moderate damage now, whatever the case may be. Bongo Bongo's other hand is on moderate damage, so Bongo Bongo is actually on moderate damage now. And yeah, so basically I'm gonna say it's a 50-50 chance Baronade gets on that drum. Can we have a coin flip for it if anybody can?
I actually tried. Was there a command set for it? But I think it's not enabled.
Let me see if I can. Yeah,
I've
sorry.
got a little like RGB remote for my light strip, and it's pretty flat and rectangular. Do you want white or black?
Well, ask Kat. Well, in all fairness, you have the call Crackathon because you're Bongo Bongo, actually.
Okay. I guess I'll go white. Nope, that's black.
So, Baronade, it does not go onto the bongo, then.
Damn it! I almost went black, and of course I second guessed myself. But you know what's really funny is I was going to describe what would happen next as, when you launch a Beyblade into an arena and you get the angle really bad, and it's one of those arenas that's got kind of like the lid to it, so the Beyblade just goes, and it's just immediately like, oh shit!
Okay.
That was essentially what would have happened if Baronade had kept spinning as it landed on the bongo.
Okay.
Very
Well,
bad.
we can easily take this again. Can we assume the same thing would happen again, correct? With regards to both Bongo Bongo and Baronade. Behaviorally.
I'm not sure, because he's taken a lot of damage at this point.
Okay, then.
I think actually what he's going to try and do now is circle back around to the bongo side and try and see if he can grab the tentacles from the top. If Baronade's like tilted at an angle, then hypothetically he can like avoid the spinning that way.
You do have a point there. Yeah, okay, so...
See if he can just drag Baronade onto there like a sack of rocks.
Okay,
Get on here!
what does Baronade... Because Baronade is spinning before this, but Baronade does sense that this is going off. I believe that the part that Bongo Bongo grabs hold of is actually the receptors with the electricity, because everything else can't be grabbed effectively. It's been thrown off, possibly, I think.
Well, I mean, like, he was going for the... I think it's the ones that get chopped off that were, like, attached to the ceiling. He's kind of going for those, because they don't look as pointy.
I think they're a bit smaller, though, so if he's going for those, let's say there's still a remnant of it. I couldn't tell you for certain. What does Baronade do as a reaction?
Baronade, funnily enough, don't have an angle right above itself.
So it's not used to fighting anything that way.
Yeah, like if Baronade is dangled from those things, it will just be like try to beam around, but it cannot hit over there, like up there.
Okay, so you.
The beams can't like angle directly above; they can angle in like a cone,
true,
a cone of shame for a pet. So he's in the neck part of the cone of shame.
Yeah, gosh,
really? The blind spot. Oh god.
Oh gosh. So
the invisible enemy found the blind spot of the enemy that is just a nervous system.
Yep. So Bongo Bongo yoinks Baronade up effectively. I'd assume that Bongo Bongo, knowing about the electric attack, would take no damage here, but what does Bongo Bongo do? I mean, maybe a sort of slight damage, but I'm not going to calculate it in it because there's electricity there. You know what I mean in general for Baronade.
If Baronade weren't so big and probably heavy, he would probably try and like do an over-the-shoulder throw, like kind of Hulk slamming Loki into the ground in Avengers 1. But he probably can't quite do that, so he's just going to kind of do the side toss. Like holding a big bag of something and you just spin around and just... And he's going to try and bounce it onto the bongos and then just start pounding away at the bongos to keep it juggled in the air so that it's just struggling to do anything.
Okay. Assuming... I'm going to take some assumptions here. But assuming Baronade is still on the bongos, assuming that Bongo Bongo keeps fighting it. Actually, then Baronade would eventually... just have so much damage that Bongo Bongo would definitely be the winner here. So, you happy me calling this? Yeah?
Yep.
Yeah, I think Bongo Bongo's biggest advantage here is being able to use the bongos after, like, his strategy of being able to just sever Baronade, push it onto the bongos, and then just juggle it without having to make contact is ultimately what lets him win here. Because otherwise, Baronade, as we saw, he did some pretty solid damage. Bongo Bongo was pushed into a bit of a corner there. He had to really come up with something clever to be able to pull anything off there for a win.
I never thought about this, but Baronade is a good counter to Bongo Bongo.
It really is. Like, again, his whole thing is countering physical contact attackers, and that's exactly what Bongo Bongo is. So he had to go with his much... normally, the thing he uses just for disruption, which is the bongo, he had to use that as a mode of attack, which is definitely not what he is used to.
I
It
mean,
was not the first thing that came to his mind.
yeah, a few things here. The main reason, there are a few things we did want to discuss specifically about Bongo Bongo versus Baronade that we don't know. But what we've effectively discussed in our answer to this is just that Bongo Bongo had the health to tank Baronade and had the power to push back. Even if Bongo...
Was he a bit more frail, he would have been fried on that second charge and probably would have been too weak
Exactly.
to keep fighting, if not dead.
Yeah. Bongo Bongo was able to out-tank Baronade. The things that solidified it again, that intelligence. Seriously, the intelligence meant that Bongo Bongo wasn't going to go for a second shot from Baronade. If Baronade had slightly higher intelligence, then Baronade would have found a way to shock Bongo Bongo more, but...
It probably would have tried to push its jellyfish shields out to upright itself so that then it wouldn't have had the blind spot, and he would have had to go for another charge. And at that point, he probably wouldn't have been able to do much.
I mean...
So I would say, because you said in the chat, I believe a 90% chance Bongo wins, and I would say that the 10% is Baronade either instinctively or reflexively or whatever, just kind of pushing itself back upright with the jellyfish shields and forcing Bongo into having to charge it again to try and topple it onto the Bongo.
My personal opinion is, and this did happen towards the start of the fight, but the only way that Baronade would have won this would have been with one or two of those electric stun shots. They were powerful enough to defeat Bongo Bongo. So here, you know, it was nearly in that 10%. It was sort of in the top 30.
Had Bongo Bongo not distracted with the hand stretched out from his body, it probably would have aimed enough in his general direction if his hand was a normal distance from himself that it could have struck him in the eye and just one-shot him immediately. Because that strong a beam attack going into Bongo Bongo's eye, I think that probably would have killed him. It probably would have fried him a fair bit.
If we're talking hypothetically on that one, and this is the fun of this, is that we give specific scenarios, but we always give a percentage at the end of the day. That situation would have probably led to a Baronade victory here, but we're not talking about specific scenarios, we're dealing with in general.
This is what we think would be the most likely scenario, and then we like to discuss other ones that would have what we think are significant differences in both the match and the result of the match.
Yeah.
It's discussing the what ifs of when you look at characters who never fought in a series or who had a fight interrupted early on. What if they had gotten to fight, or what if they'd gotten to finish their fight? What would have happened?
Yeah. But yeah, so again, also just to clarify, even though it was tough to factor in, I did factor in a bit of that Dark Affinity. That did help with the power. I think it was...
It gave him a little bit of a shield, and was probably the only reason his hand didn't get completely fried with that beam attack.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was a bit of everything. It was just Bongo Bongo was better spec'd overall. That health, that intelligence, the Dark Affinity as well, just... Bongo Bongo had the armor, just. But I was fully expecting, apart from... I was expecting this match to be Bongo Bongo nearly destroyed by Baronade, which is fun to think because Bongo Bongo, again, has fought against a lot of bosses that have faced up against Bongo Bongo, and those bosses have lost, but Baronade has possibly lost to them, so...
I almost said that he won rather handily, and I was like, God damn it.
Yeah.
I realized the pun. It's funny when I do the pun intentionally, but when it's not intentional, it's just aggravating.
But yeah. So, is there anything else you want to say on this fight in general, Kat?
Yeah, the possibility of Baronade just getting a lucky shot and randomly hitting Bongo Bongo would have been the cinematic moment I would have wanted somebody to animate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It would be hilarious to see a fight between Bongo Bongo and Baronade, and see all this hype, see everyone being like, man, all my money is going on Bongo Bongo. The odds are 99,000 rupees to 1. And then Baronade just one-shots a lightning bolt straight through Bongo Bongo's eye, out the other end, and he just falls to the ground fully dead, and everyone just goes silent, jaws agape. Like,
Yeah.
what happened? And you hear that one guy go, woohoo!
Definitely.
Pay up!
Okay then.
Like that is really just a beautiful moment of its own, of the thing that by all means should be in a very bad matchup here. In terms of just like again, Baronade's a hard counter to Bongo Bongo in general, and the only thing that allows him to push through is the higher like base stat total, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, his Dark Affinity and invisibility, like especially the invisibility, that doesn't help him at all. Baronade can't see; it doesn't have to.
I mean,
So one of his biggest strengths is just not applicable at all.
putting it this way, Bongo Bongo isn't on the defensive here. Baronade is defensive by nature, so Bongo Bongo has to attack. Invisibility is pointless if you're attacking. Well, it can be used in attacking, but Baronade doesn't even have a system that invisibility would detriment Baronade for as well.
Your invisibility is meant to help you either avoid oncoming attacks or to get around your opponent's guard by keeping them from knowing where the attack is coming from.
Yeah.
And because Baronade had already a very strong defense and it wasn't relying on sight, it was just spinning its shields around, Bongo Bongo couldn't really get enough of an opening to go directly for the body. He had to get very creative and had to do a war of attrition once he got the scenario the way he wanted it. And even then, Baronade probably could have fired off a couple of lightning beams that could have potentially seared him if he wasn't careful with how it would be bouncing around randomly. There's so much room, even in just that like juggling section. There's a lot of moments where Baronade could have just gotten a lucky shot off and hit him in the eye right there and then.
I mean, yeah, again, with all of this, I didn't put it down there, which is my apologies for everybody that I'm with, but I fully expected any matchup between Bongo Bongo and Baronade, Bongo Bongo would be taking a lot of damage, just having to tank the hits.
Yeah,
like, which is something to say.
Can do.
Yep.
If Bongo Bongo's stats were even just a bit lower, especially in terms of his health or intelligence, if either of those were lower, he'd be dead. That he would not be able to lap.
Yeah.
Health B or intelligence C, this fight would have been one-sided the other way. Baronade would have just tased him to death.
I would have possibly said 50-50, but I need to recalculate it, Krakaton. So you may very well be right on that one. Definitely, if you drop both health and intelligence, I actually think, if
it's just one or the other, it'd probably be closer to a 50-50. But yeah, if health went down to B and intelligence C, Bongo Bongo's not making it through that very likely.
Yeah. Okay, so Baronade, we talked about this from Bongo Bongo.
Line. Oh no, I'm very evil. In fact, if our roles were reversed, the conversation wouldn't be happening. You'd be dying, and I'd be laughing. that's Baronade's response to Bongo Bongo in the alternate universe where they've both died in their respective matchups against other stuff.
Yeah. So that health B can take Bongo Bongo's hits very well. Power D, again, doesn't matter because special abilities are effectively Baronade's power. Intelligence F. I mean, the thing is that what Baronade naturally does is a counter to Bongo Bongo. There's the intelligence being boosted for Baronade would have helped a lot, would have evened it out because Baronade would have then understood that the electric stun was the way to go. But, I mean, generally everything countered Bongo Bongo, so it wasn't too usul here. It was useful, but not too.
Bongo was able to gauge that Baronade had no intelligence because he did that initial test of trying to see how was it attracted to the sound, and seeing that even with his other hand visible, it just went towards the one making sound, and seeing that it had the natural response of retract this shield, then extend that shield, was very robotic. It was very much a thing that just a plant or a nervous system organism would do. It is not something that has any real sentience would have done.
But yeah, these special abilities, these are the counters to Bongo Bongo. Listen up, all other bosses. This is what you need. Electric Stun A. Again, ranged attack, because you need to be ranged against Bongo Bongo. I mean, and A rank. I mean, yep. It's powerful, it's fast, it's good, man.
Yeah, it can stun lock you if you're not careful.
Yeah. And
If you're susceptible, if you're especially weak to that, like we assume that oh god, I've forgotten his name. Morpho. Or not Morpho, Morpho. Morphonitis. Yeah, Baronade fights Morpho Knight from Kirby.
yeah.
If you were especially like weak to electric attacks, you would be in for a bad time with just that one.
Yeah.
It could be a low powered shot too, just a
Yeah, definitely. Jellyfish B. Jellyfish, and again, this is where we've been saying time and time again, if Baronade had better intelligence, that jellyfish could be used perfectly. This is how the jellyfish were used perfectly.
yeah.
This is what we've been talking about. Brilliant
Literally
armor.
owned Bongo Bongo.
Brilliant armor, brilliant attack. And talking about an attack you can put on armor, Flail B. Like, again, I've said it in other matchups, but Baronade actually has a great arsenal. This is what we've seen today, and it's a shame that Baronade does not have the intelligence to use them, does not have higher stats, because Baronade could curb stomp all the other bosses with the slightly better stats, and that is the truth. And this is where we've proven it, because Baronade had a chance of beating Bongo Bongo.
He gave
And
Bongo Bongo a run for his money like no other boss up to this point has.
exactly. How? I mean, I know how, but
Of all the things, the anemone is what gave one of our like top contenders a really hard time.
yeah. So,
He's practically breezed through every other fight that he's like won.
yeah.
And even in the ones where like he has lost, like with the Twin Rova fight, them just barely managing to survive, he did very substantial damage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in this one, it was he was on the receiving end of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, without directly spoiling, I recommend people reading War of the Worlds, and you can see a resemblance what happens right at the end.
I love it, Kat. I love it. It is true.
If you've never read War of the Worlds, go listen to Jeff Wayne's musical rendition of it. It's like a 2-hour album from the 70s, but it's amazing. It's a prog rock concept album. Great way to experience the story, honestly. And then you'll understand it a bit better. So that's your homework, guys.
Yep.
That's everyone's homework. I expect it on my desk by this Saturday.
Now, do we want to discuss, because, I mean, it didn't matter in this fight, but we were trying to discuss other points about things. I didn't honestly know which way to go on this. I mean, we do have questions of, Bongo Bongo's corporealness, effectively, but, yeah.
Well, Bongo Bongo having the like darkness affinity can control. He can become be united with the shadows fully if there is shadows.
Yeah.
But his whole being is being a shadow beast, meaning that unless you can detect magic to some sort, he could be quote unquote invisible without being invisible.
Yeah.
I will say this. So, based on the what I've seen, Bongo Bongo is the only boss aside from Final Form Ganon in Ocarina of Time that is programmed to only be killable with a sword. You can only do the final point of damage to kill him with a sword. You can wail on him for hours with bombs, hammer, bow, everything, and whittle his HP down. But he has a specific like flag that says unless this is damage from a sword, it is not lethal.
Yeah.
So what like that does like bring up the argument of potentially maybe he is only somewhat physical because maybe it's only the magic of the Master Sword that can actually like land that killing blow and slay him.
Which reminds me about one other point before going. Again, Baronade counters Bongo Bongo. No joke. Baronade's electricity, even the room that Baronade was in, you know, it lights up the place very significantly. I know you can have this stuff with lava and with fire as well, but it was all-encompassing all around.
Lava does not emit a whole lot of light unless there's a lot of it in one place.
So yeah, this all lit up the place, which did give Baronade, again, a slight advantage in our calculations. So, yeah.
This is probably why Bongo Bongo was already taking, like, pretty serious damage to his hand with just one hit, where he was careless and got hit by a very strong attack. He almost lost one of his two hands, and at that point, he might have been permanently injured.
Yeah. So, any other remarks on this, or shall we go towards the end of it?
I think the one other thing I'll say is that on that note, Baronade is not only one of our strongest contenders in terms of his arsenal for the Electric Sun stuff, but because so many of them, like we discussed this, I forget if it was on the stream, a very large number of these bosses have darkness affinity. And if that's countered by light, and that lightning's really freaking bright, then, I mean, Baronade is a pretty hard counter to a lot of darkness affinity stuff.
Yep, and if you're only focusing on darkness affinity, watch out, there's Baronade. So that's all I can say on that.
Watch out, guys. We got an anemone over here.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put it back here. Again, we'll put it more sort of, we'll say goodbye slightly after this, but closing remarks on this. I mean, amazing fight. I didn't think of it. This is why I do these things.
Yeah. Having multiple people really helps because we don't think of the same things that the other people do. It's really great to be able to bounce off of each other with this and play this sort of what if racquetball.
What, you mean bounce off one another with this? I mean, what?
Yeah.
Bongo.
No, I mean bounce off of each other with this.
Yeah, like Baronade bounced off the bongo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yep.
I
Okay.
think it would have been especially funny if Bongo Bongo had just gone for like the full shoulder tackle to launch Baronade onto the bongo and have it bounce off like a trampoline and just into the pit and let it fall and die. But he wanted it to suffer after what it did to him.
Yeah,
Like, no, I'm going to make sure that this dies. I'm going to see it perish so that I know I never have to deal with it ever again.
Yeah. Okay.
It is in Bongo Bongo's nature to play, to toy around with his victims.
Yeah, well, it's more in Bongo Bongo's nature this time.
Yeah, it turns out he's also just really petty
Yeah.
and very thorough.
Yeah.
No loose ends.
Okay. So, if that's the case, I'm gonna put it back here. Yeah, boss battle round 18. Again, this is the reason why I do this. Like, matchups like this, I sometimes don't even give a second thought to. But they're actually really amazing. So, yeah, what can I say? Everybody else? Does everybody else here have something to say?
I'm just very glad we did this as a round robin and not an elimination. Elimination is not a good gauge of each like contestant's skill level. A round robin pits everyone against everyone, or at the
Yeah.
very least breaks them into blocks and tests everyone in groups of matchups, and that's a much more accurate way to determine that. I don't like
Yeah.
elimination tournaments very much, especially for like martial arts or whatever, or a lot of
Yeah.
sport. We've seen a lot of times in like the NBA and NFL and all that stuff, we'll see a team that is like third ranked in the country go up against the bottom ranked, and they get absolutely slaughtered because it was a bad matchup, or they just had a bad week leading up to that. All sorts of things a factor.
Mm, yeah.
It's just not a fair gauge of who's actually skilled. It's more luck based at that point of, do you get the matchups against the ones you're good against, or are you just going to get eliminated in the first round no matter what?
Yeah. Okay. Anything? I mean, I know you're here, Kat. So anything from you, Kat?
Yeah, I do agree with Kragaton on the round robin being the way to go, and I could see how boring and quick elimination in this concept would be.
Yeah, definitely.
It would be just like, oh, well, Ganon wins. But it doesn't matter who else is in the bracket.
Mm,
Unless
yeah.
it's late.
definitely. Well, again, we've shown off how brilliant Baronet can be with this round robin. So, again, I can only confirm what both of you are saying.
Is Baronet going to be the only boss to beat Ganon, including Dark Ganon not being able to beat Ganon?
I don't.
If that ends up being the resolution we come to, we're all going to be sitting there going, why though? Why does this make too much sense?
Could you imagine? I really don't think so, but we'll see later.
Make that into existence, but if I have, let it be known I am a prophet.
Okay. Well, okay then. We'll do everything as normal. Again, goodbye from me. And everybody else, if you want to say goodbye, do so.
Do you hear the voices too?
Yes.
Yes.
And
I thought we both waited the same amount of time as well.
okay. So yep. Well, yep. Goodbye then, Krakaton, Troy, and Kat. And that's the end of Boss Battle Round 18.